Hi, everyone. Welcome to Core Office Hours. Today we're doing, by consensus, Biz Dev Edition, and just want to welcome everybody who's watching, everybody who's here. We've already kind of prepped and primed the conversation. And it's interesting because we do want to talk about maybe potentially how your core, and the core that you've done for your own practice might be applicable and valuable, and at the same time, what the mechanics are of the topic of business development. Our mission is to empower creative leaders and transform global businesses through design, designing a better future together, which is a beautiful mission. And today we have people from all over. Adi, where are you at? What?
Still in Redlands, near your old home hang.
Yeah, I went to high school there, Redlands High.
There you go.
Story. Redlands, California, the Canary Islands, Romania, Silver Lake, we have everywhere. So the drop-in, and I'll model it. We're going to do the drop-in, then we're going to do core Q&A, and the questions are around business development, how to reach more people, how to have enough awareness in a contextual way, even to who we are. Ooh, this music is so good, but I'm going to lower it a little bit. The upload, and then music, no cookies, and we're going to hang and chill and connect, because that's what is being called for. So the drop-in is your name, location, and what you do, and what are you grateful for right now, this very moment. Gratitude as the anchor. Jose Caballer, I'm in Los Angeles, in downtown, in the fashion district. What do I do? You know, I've talked a lot last week about what I do, and you know, you can say UX designer, you can say strategist, I can say designer, entertainer, according to the personality assessment from Ray Dalio, but more importantly, like I see now a simple kind of aspect of the role of, you know, holding space for us as we transition and as we go forth in all the work that we're doing. So yeah, whatever that is, I don't know what that job is, holding space during transitions, Sherpa, doesn't even matter. I'm Jose. What am I grateful for right now? You know, I'm very grateful for being here. I'm very grateful for the connections. I'm grateful for Todd and his leadership, friendship, and wisdom. And then I'm also present and grateful to that where we are and who I am right now as we kind of speak is, you know, I'm here. I'm grateful that I'm here, and this is where I'm at, regardless of all the feels, the emotions, and all the things that happen, you know, from a general life kind of start and perspective. I'm just very grateful to be here and with you. So I will pick Adi.
All right, Adi Caballer. I'm in sunny Southern California, at least now. It was rainy just recently. Redlands. And what do? I am making the transition and declaring myself a brand consultant, and just want to help businesses to grow. And I believe I can help them with that. What am I most grateful for? I am actually on the eve of a big marathon that I'm running tomorrow, called Revel Big Bear, and after our and the other thing I'm super grateful is to connect here, and always a pleasure, Jose, hearing from your wisdom, and having Todd here. I'm like, oh my gosh, wow, big guns, wow. And so very grateful for those things. Thank you.
Thank you. Choose somebody. And Hania, you're on stage now.
Okay, I'll go with Iana.
Thank you, Tijuana. It's a bit trickier to pronounce, I know.
Tijuana.
Thank you for choosing me. Hi, I'm Ioana Balcan. I'm from Romania, and I'm part of a fluid agency called CAT, and I do strategy. I do strategy, illustration, packaging, design, UI, UX. Like Jose, we know we've accumulated, and I accumulated a lot of skills over 11 years. What's funny about the personality test that I took quite a few, not quite a few, I think 4 in total. One was the designer personality, one was Myers-Briggs, and more recently Ray Dalio. I think my personality may have changed because at first I was an advocate, but now I'm a strategist, which is very interesting. And then my design personality was visionary. And I'm grateful for the people I know, and that we show up and we maintain and nurture the relationships. I'm grateful there's a space where we can ask for help and exchange experiences. And I got the book from Gabor Mate, The New Normal. I know Roxana is reading it too. And it talks about how we developed coping mechanisms for trauma that turned into ADHD, autoimmune diseases, mental issues, and how you can solve those and be aware of those. And I'm reading it, I just started it, but it gives me a whole nother dimension to work with. And I hope, everyone who's interested can benefit from it. And I'm gonna pick Hanya.
And Hanya, location, what you do, and then also like, what are you grateful for right now? Ioana, did you say what you were grateful for?
Yeah, I said the people, the relationship that we nurture and we connect them for getting the book, the New Normal from Gabor Mate.
Got it.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Hanya, welcome.
Yes, thank you very much for having me as a panelist. I'm Hanya Bridge. I'm located in Berlin, Germany. I'm scientist. I'm very much interested in science communication. Actually, this is what I'm discovering right now, and how important is this communication to lead science in the future. I mean, to communicate much better with the society. And what I'm grateful to discover my purpose in my life after so many years. These meetings with Jose for design, and I guess the personality of Jose and everything involved made me think quite different. And last days we have enjoyed the Science Week in Berlin, and I was very clear how important is your work in terms of communication. And we agree, the scientists, that it's very important to be more multidisciplinary and to work more close with people so creative as you are. So I'm in this path, and I was really fighting and to be here, and happy to see you here and be part of the community.
Thank you, Hanya. I picked someone.
Yes, I will pick Todd. Hello, yeah.
I'm Todd. I also am in Southern California. I'm in Los Angeles, about 10 minutes away from Jose in his spaceship. And I am an entrepreneur, a product guy, sometimes creator, filmmaker, and strategist. And I am grateful, besides being grateful for this, which I am grateful for the thing that I've been grateful for a fair amount now. Some of you maybe know that I am, that my mom has a chronic disease, chronic illness, and that she's got a excellent live-in caregiver, and I continue to be incredibly grateful for her and the care and the quality of life that she's enabling my mom to have. So, and thank you for letting me share that.
Beautiful. I think we have Audie and Nicholas left.
Has
or-
Roxana gone?
Oh no, Roxana too. Yeah.
Roxana.
Hey everyone, happy to be here. I am Roxana, I'm based in Mallorca, Spain. I will consider myself for right now a web designer. I don't know what I'm going to transition in, but for now I am a web designer and I'm really grateful to be here. And especially the last week for having multiple collaborations with different people that I really care about, and that makes me really happy, even because the future seems a little bit brighter every day. So happy for that. And I call Nicolas.
Hello. So I arrived a little bit late, so I'm just kind of guessing the dynamics.
We're dropping in, and the drop-in question is, what are you grateful for right now, and your name, what you do, and where you're at location-wise, and what are you grateful for right now?
Yes. So I'm Nicholas. I'm currently based in Cartagena. So actually I arrived here a little bit earlier today, Cartagena, Colombia. I do content strategy. I joined on October I participated to my first course session back in October, and I'm trying to merge my process with a lot of what I learned from Jose at Core. Today, I'm very grateful for just the existence of people like Jose and other mentors, because like I'm only 23. I've been working since I was 19, like 14-hour shifts, just because of how encouraging the words of people like Jose are. And I think I wouldn't have the life that I have right now if it weren't for people like him, who have like so vast knowledge of given a field, and you just make the decision to apply it, and it can totally change your life. And that's what I'm grateful for.
It's beautiful. Thank you. That makes me, I received that. I received that. Did Audie, did you go? You did. I'm tripping, man. My memory is like gone. Like, so I think that's everyone. Thank you, Audie. That kind of opened up the portal. So gratitude, that's the portal. In the topic of business development, the big question, and I did put it in a slide, but we don't even need it in a slide: how to reach more people, how to secure more projects, how to get awareness. And I've been writing some notes as we've been having this conversation for this lovely panel. Back-to-back panel kind of activations, and what I want to drop into is this. So last week in a diversity and inclusion, or equity and inclusion event hosted by Pharrell in Virginia, Norfolk, Virginia, I got an opportunity to meet a lot of really amazing creative people of color and have conversations about what are the challenges and the obstacles. And something that I found super interesting in the conversations was that it was mentioned on stage multiple times, and it was present in the conversations we were having behind the scenes, which was kind of the role of our general kind of generational trauma that we carry with us as it relates to our own personal development and what we manifest in the world. And the only reason I mentioned that is simply because the obstacles and the mindset challenges, I like to call it, more on the spiritual and the psychological, but in the world we call it mindset, just so that it doesn't get too woo-woo. So we'll call it mindset that we have to have in order to grow and expand both our careers, but also our sustainability at the financial, at the ecological, and at the I would say personal kind of spiritual level. is important to have. And they gave away $1.4 million on the last day on stage, $1 million to one entrepreneur and 200,000 to two other entrepreneurs of color. And the program that they have, actually, interestingly, because somebody was telling me about the program, you know, in addition to capital and kind of like education and support on what the startups are that they're doing, they also have mental health. They have a coach and a therapist, quote unquote, that works with each entrepreneur uniquely, because it's a person of color, in identifying like what are the blockages and what are the things that we deal with. I'm not a therapist. I'm not licensed to practice anything. We used to do design therapy, and that was one of the reasons why I was never comfortable with calling it design therapy. Hi, Angel. If you want to join us on stage, you're welcome. I just did that. So today, like, let's address this question. And I think the best mode to do it, I want to give the stage and the microphone for a second or for a bit to Todd and baseline it, and then have kind of like the questions. Or the other option is you can ask the question you had, and Roxana, you can give some context, and Adi, you can give some context into your business development. What do you guys prefer? That we started out with just Todd sharing, hey, this is how we did business development and how he's done business development and growing an agency? Or do you guys want to talk about the context on your end?
I'd let Todd go for it. I'll just be a sponge.
Got it. But it would be great to then listen to you guys in reflection of it afterwards. So Todd, the question is this. You were the co-founder of an agency called Tag in the 90s. And context on our end. Like, okay, so let's do a little bit of both. You want to ask your question, and then we'll let Todd respond to it, and I
actually don't know how I phrased it.
You phrase it this way. How do you reach more people? How do I secure more projects when there isn't enough awareness of my practice and I don't have a website and people don't really know me?
Yeah. Okay.
Want to expand on that?
Yeah, so I had a pretty good year until November, where I couldn't find any more work. But I got into, like, we have 11 years in being as a company. It's kind of the equivalent of an LLC in US. And the bulk of my clients have been US, Canada, and Australia. I did get to a higher tier of clients, got paid better, got rid of debt. However, I never had, proper business development strategy done for our own business awareness. I barely am visible in social media, and different creative groups know us as different, with different capabilities and skills. So some people might know us for packaging, some people for illustration, some people for strategy or very nice stylescapes. And I don't know how, because there's a sense of urgency right now. I don't know how to get something in like a project in the pipeline. So I've been doing lead gen, reaching out to people that I worked with before. Sadly, they haven't, they don't have any specific projects right now. I do subcontract work with Philips 66. However, the work is sporadic, so you never know when they do have something. I did ask. For now, they don't. And I'm also doing referral partnerships, meaning if I know someone is looking for a specific skill that I don't have, I refer people from my network. And I can't work with 95% of the people that we used to work with, because the budgets were way too low and the clients were very difficult because it came from a Upwork background. For the past 3 years, I haven't touched Upwork, and I'm not inclined to do it because the competition is on price and speed. Yeah. So
got it.
I think that's enough.
Well,
I hope
thanks
that's
for sharing.
enough context.
Well,
Yeah.
some of what I'm going to say is going to be a bummer, right? Because I don't have a magic wand. So I don't have something that I can say to you that like, oh, just do this and you'll get a project in the next, week or two. A lot of what you are doing is the right thing, right? Some of what you're doing, some of the things that you aren't practicing, I would urge you to start practicing. We were talking before we started recording about website and social media presence, and they're just antes to the game, and they're powerful, and particularly social media, because having a website is sort of, it's a destination that somebody's going to go look at and say, hey, here's what's there. They're probably more likely to find you to go look at what you have on Instagram and see what you have there. That's really advantageous in a lot of ways too, because you can change your voice a lot more easily, change kind of, what people think of you or are thinking you might offer in an Instagram kind of environment more easily than in the environment of your own website. Even if you have a gallery of your website, your portfolio, here's what it is, I'm going to add this thing to it. There's just more of an opportunity to add context and engage in in some dialogue, some conversation. It is ultimately about how you generate awareness. And all, I'm not telling you anything that isn't probably going to make all of you just kind of like shake your head up and down, right? Like, oh, right, yeah, having a website so that somebody knows, can go to that and see, oh, you do this, and just to some of the things that when Jose and Ioana and I were chatting before everybody else got here, the thing, well, I understand you think, hey, some people know me as this, and some people know me as this, and some people know me as this. They all fall under being a creative agency, all of them, right? So nothing's wrong with that. And the people that know you for packaging, that's great. Here's one of the things I would share with all of you is the way for you to, there's an instinct to try to make things sound fancy, right? Sound like they have a level of complexity to them. And they do, right? It's not that anything we do in design or development or content is easy. There are certain things, for years, I and others have been saying everything's hard. Some things are harder than others, right?
Yeah.
But one of the ways that you make things accessible to a potential audience is by using communication skills to make it understandable to them and easy to understand for them. There's this, a lot of you might be familiar with this concept in improv performance, of this concept of yes and, right? It's way that when people are performing improv, they put something, somebody puts something out there, and you never do this, you don't reject ideas creatively that people put in front of you when you're performing improv, right? You just say yes and on top of like, oh yeah, I accept that, and then I'm going to add to this and add to this. And it's a communication skill as well when a prospective client and a prospect like says, oh, so you do this, right? And it's a simple, easy way to say, yeah, we do that. We also, do this, or we do that, and that's a component of what we do. We do this too. There's a larger landscape there. So there's a communication skill to that. There's a lot of awareness, and a lot of awareness, you know, and thinking of that yes and component when you are working on the awareness in pushing other kinds of content out there in whatever medium it might be. It may be in social media. It may be on, LinkedIn. It may be on Instagram, wherever you find it, most effective. It may be doing what effectively is kind of PR. I mean, these sorts of things. One of the things that's kind of an amazing benefit of COVID is that these virtual events, while I think were often going on, it was almost like, hey, if you're not attending in person, you're attending virtually, you're kind of like not really attending, right? You're kind of listening in or whatever. And sometimes that's true, but it's just become much more of like, oh, you're actively involved if you're attending virtually.
I do that as much as I can, yeah.
And it's another category, right? It's another category. And also figuring out how to communicate that without, how to be there and be present without being communicating who you are, what you do, but also, there is a component of it of like, we're good at this, we're great, we have great skills around these things. And if you need help, come talk to us, right? Versus, and we're looking for work, because there's this thing of desperation, right? That makes, for whatever reason, right, pushes people, makes people a little concerned, right? But saying to, and this is a piece of business development, is like, how can I help you, right? That sometimes people don't even know, right? Sometimes they're complaining and they're talking about what's going on, and they don't really even know how to express it, right? Like, what are you trying to do? What are you trying to do that's not quite working one way? Another way that I've been putting it for a long time is, what's hard? Like, what's hard for you? And is there what are you trying to achieve, and how is it not working, right? Or how is it a little harder than it feels like it should be? And get them talking, right? So some of it is the lead gen piece of it, like, you got to get the conversations going. But just because you get the conversation going doesn't mean you'll immediately get work. Some of it is helping them get talking about what they need. You shared, that, like, people are saying, well, I don't have anything for you right now, right? And it's like, oh, okay, that's okay. Well, what are you guys working on these days? I'd just be curious to catch up, right? And get them talking about what they're working on, because I bet you they have problems. Just because it's the nature of business, right? And not with like the idea of like, the second that a problem comes up, it's like, oh, I'm here to solve it for you, right? Sort of like you draw them out. You draw them out, like, oh, okay, yeah, so that's interesting. So tell me more about this new marketing campaign that you're working on. What's the goal with that? And you're there, you're empathetic, right? But you're also getting them to talk about what they have going on, what's difficult about it. And then, as you're making notes while they're talking, right? 5, 10, 15 minutes later, you're like, well, hey, as it turns out, right? I heard you mention this or that, we could, we've got, some real talent around X, Y, or Z that seems to be, relevant to what you're trying to tackle here or there or the other way, right? Listening is incredibly, Jose, I don't know if everybody heard this earlier, but Jose was one of the projects, actually maybe the first project that we worked on together, Jose, was a project for Disney. back in was a long time ago. We don't have to go back in. It
2001,
was a long
2000,
time
2000
ago.
actually.
And that Disney used to own a search
They
engine.
bought InfoSeek for $70 million. From
More than that.
InfoSeek.
More than that.
It was about 100 and some, but the purchase price in the press was $100 million. Yeah,
I'll have to look that up. I say
it was 70 million to purchase and then 30 million in marketing. A
Can
lot
I
of
ask-
money, a lot of money.
Can I
Anyhow.
ask something? I hear a lot of success stories. What about stories where you failed and then learn from it or something like that?
Here,
Well,
can I baseline something real quick?
Hang on
Yeah,
one second.
sure.
Just let me finish this line
Sure.
and then run with that. Okay. That project with Disney, which ended up being millions of dollars for Razorfish, started out as a logo design project. They brought us in because they were rebranding this search engine as go.com, and they needed a logo, and we had a strong reputation as a design firm as well as a product development firm. And it was that opportunity to sit with the GM who ran all of the search engine and talk about the problems that they were having that led this project from being a logo redesign project to them saying, holy hell, these people at Razorfish really seem to know what they're doing. And we need product help on this badly. This logo design project opened up the opportunity for conversations that led to that, right? And that's just the role of listening, and how questions in asking the right questions that demonstrate that you really understand your client, right? That says a lot more than to them oftentimes than you demonstrating your knowledge by saying, hey, it's like this, 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 right? And it's super valuable. I had another project, same kind of idea with an old, company that used to make, before smartphones, used to make handheld personal information devices, right? And same basic idea, how valuable listening and which questions you ask get you the work. In terms of failure, go ahead, Jose. I can.
No, go ahead. Go there.
In terms of failures, there's a lot of it, right? I mean, we respond, going back to Razorfish days, we respond to, there's a lot of RFPs, requests for proposals that come through, and we respond to probably 75, 80, 90% of them when they came through. We maybe got one in 10 of them, something like that.
So it's about volume too. Like you
Sales
reach out wherever you can, and it's about volume, a lot of volume.
Sales is almost always about volume. It's almost always about volume. And knowing that, it's also knowing what your sales process is to make it efficient, so that you have, we talked a little bit more earlier, about, hey, you do packaging, right? Packaging design. There's probably 2 or 3 different flavors of that you might offer. It's like, oh, there's an individual, it might be the individual packaging design that is a function of, hey, we've got an incremental product on an existing line, right? There's probably another thing that's a new line altogether, right? Maybe those are, we'll just say there's those kind of two. To package those offerings and know that, hey, those are two kind of different variations that are going to come up a lot, right? And to be able to just have those ready to go when somebody says, well, hey, I've got a packaging work. Can you tell me more about how you work on packaging projects, right? And for you to be able to just turn it over to them and say, here's how we do single product, here's how we do line, and our here's the time frame that it typically takes. You know, a lot of this depends on you. Big assumptions that are built into those types of conversations. And then another huge piece of it is like, here's the range, right? Here's the range from a budgetary perspective. It's also completely fair, and I always try to get them to say it first, like, can you tell me what your budget range is here, right? Sometimes they're shopping. Sometimes they've never done this before. It's really common with startups, right? Never done it before. They don't know what's a reasonable budget, and you have to, you know, offer that to them, right? On the flip side, there's companies that are experienced, they're used to it, and you don't want to undercut yourself, right? And by getting them to say, oh, well, we were thinking, you know, $12,000 to $15,000, right? It's like, okay, that's reasonable. We can work within that. If they come back and say, well, we're thinking $800, say, we'd love to work with you, right? Love to work with you, but that's really not a range that we can work in. We could do something kind of in this, I'm just throwing numbers out here. We could do something in the, say, $3,000 to $5,000 range, but that would mean that you already have X, Y, Z established in terms of visual language. It would mean that we are locking in on two iterations of design, and that any incremental design iterations would be scoped out at least as an added $1,500, $2,000, whatever it is, right? So in order to be able to have a conversation with them, you can what I'm effectively saying is you can productize this stuff. And
I've done that. Yeah, I know what you're saying.
Great.
I've done value ladder and types of services we could offer. Recently, they're finally clearer than ever before. I want to share a story. So when I joined Pro Group, I think it was 2020. Yeah. I had made a post in there. Back then they had a community on Facebook asking how you get more, kind of a similar question. What happened is in the way I structured it, that people started dumping their pain on me, meaning someone called me a beggar, someone said work is not gonna fall in your lap by magic. What else? You're supposed to figure it out on your own. And like Mo Ishmael closed the post, but like I left it there, but people kept commenting. I didn't, like, at some point I didn't even try to explain myself anymore because people were just dumping their, I was gonna say foul word shit on me, because it was actually, they were unloading every insecurity and pain and trauma, and I was at the time was suffering too, because I didn't know why my business was melting, because I came at it as a designer, and I just started to figure out business development and strategy and things like that. And the one part that someone called me a beggar really translated into trauma for me. So when I noticed that when I do lead generation and I try to ask for people, I'm saying, look, I'm available for work, or what are you working on? Do you have any challenges? Is there anything I can help with? I am so afraid that I either am sounding like I'm begging or like I'm desperate.
Right. It's a reasonable fear, right? Because there is that because we know, we experience it ourselves. Somebody comes out to us approaches us, whatever the topic is, right, in a way that feels desperate, right? I don't know if it's a human quality or a developed world quality or whatever it is, right? But we don't have empathy about that, right? There's something that like is off-putting about it, right?
Yeah.
So it's a very reasonable fear. I think the simple maneuver or a maneuver, right, is like you want to be empathetic. It's like how can I be empathetic? How can I demonstrate value, right? Because pretty much I can tell you that whatever business development I've done that's been very successful, it's where I've helped a client understand a problem that they have in a better, more valuable, distinctive way, and where I've demonstrated to them, typically by way of good questions, and where I ask a question and they then say, well, can you tell me more about that? Versus where they ask a question and then I tell them how great I am, right? And it's the empathy, and the thoughtful question, right, that really is an incredible lever to opening doors. And saying, hey, I'd love to hear more about what you guys are up to, right? Just to be able to have a pulse of what you guys are working on, put them in a position of like, hey, what new insights you have about the market. It's been a while since, and if it's not a client that you've worked with before, right? It's been a bit since we worked together, and just like to get caught up on what you're doing, or what you're working on, or where you see position them as an expert, where you see you know so much about this space. I'd love to hear more about it. And generally, people really like to be able to, at least they're either empathetic and they want to share and they're like, oh, sure, I'd be happy to share with you, or they're ego driven and they want to show how smart they are, right?
Yeah.
So I think if you're talking to them, I don't think that you need to say, I'm available, I'm looking for work, we're looking for work, that kind of thing. I think they're kind of gonna know, right? But if you want to say, hey, you've seen our work, and there are, we're always on the lookout for other great clients like you, right? Are there folks in the industry that could benefit from the kind of things that we do, right? So you're saying I'm available effectively, right? They don't expect you to be not seeking work, but you're just positioning it in a way that makes it, has an appeal to it, put it that way, right?
Yeah. I want Roxana to go next since she has her hand up. But what I was going to share was the party strategy. Someone I worked with that ran my agency for a bit. One of the things we did immediately, like we're having all these conversations with multiple clients. We threw a party. We threw a huge party. There was work in the pipeline. There was some stuff that needed to be closed. Some stuff that just was a lead. You were on the panel at that party, Todd. In downtown. I did have access to amazing locations, and this was obviously a long time before COVID. But part of that could be even just in the form of hosting webinars for your community. And what that gives me to a point, the one thing that a masterful business development people in my community, in my network, basically agency and development firm owners, we're constantly having lunch, right? And like, how you doing, catching up on the personal and like on your relationship beyond like, you don't come to them when you need work. You're just having conversations about catching up and how they're doing. And the topic of work comes up at some point. Like I just got an email last night. I saw it come through from one of those people who I had like a hangout. I visited it in their home and hung out with, you know, spouses and friends and, you know, etc. And it was a great evening. There was no conversation about work other than like, oh my God, you know what? It's so good to see you. At some point, you know, it would be great to work together again. It was so much fun. It's so much fun. And you leave it at that, and there's never a need, you know, from either side. And that I know is kind of like holding the cards near. And you talk a little bit about the fact that sometimes in business and in the world and in this general, there's not a lot of authenticity, because if you're meeting, what the fuck are you meeting with? Like, you need work, right? Everyone needs work. They're doing business development nonstop as an agency. It's like a cycle of like, there's always going to be the need for work to put the pipeline and specifically the right projects, but weaving the relationships and maintaining them takes a lot of time and work at a social level. And then you activate that with things like, you know, hey, here's the latest case study, and they see it, or you throw a party, and at that party, one of the potential clients who we didn't know well, they got to talk to the different people. I know how to throw a party. I mean, it was like, you know, what do you call it? Back, you can take pictures with the logo wall, like, you know, it was like a big thing, and a lot of people showed up. And that client, and again, it wasn't a big client for us at the time, but it was 2008. So hell, any client is a good client. It was UCLA, and it was a $30,000 project, a lot of work, more than we would have charged hundreds of thousands if it was in another time, but we did it all for 30K and we made it profitable, right? But she was like, you guys seem busy. You guys seem like you were creating desire from them to you, kind of like, I'm throwing the party, it's all like good, like, you know, you're not, it's a different direction than like, hey, we need work. Did we need the work? Yes. Did we hold that card, you know, close to us and didn't like voice it? Absolutely not. Like, we were having a party and there was a panel about digital, and there was like all these experts talking about it, and I used to do that every there was like a whole period of about 2 years where I did that every month. In Culver City, I threw a morning panel. Everyone got coffee and like lots of food. Like, I paid $1,000 for it, you know, to the restaurant owner, who I became friends with because I was a diner there, and I really liked the restaurant. And he was the manager. He was the husband of the owner, of the chef. And those things produced, you know, so much new business. And it wasn't even from the people who attended. It was the panelists that I invited that were like, oh man, we need more help. I haven't talked to you in a while. Thank you for inviting me to this panel. And boom, and there was a project there. Like, so I was really good at, or I could say I am good at like generating buzz. And from that, Adi, do you want to, I know you have to go. What's your takeaway real quick before you go?
I love what you just shared, and it ties in with things that I in my gut have been is yeah, build those relationships. And Ioana, you touched on it. Build relationships and be willing to want to just help people. If they know you're there to help them with whatever problem they're willing to share and explore those solutions together, I think it's just natural. It's no longer, you know, my son would do that. He would go, Dad, I'm going to do this because I need work. It's like, no, it's not about you. It's about them. So anyways, that's my biggest takeaway. Thank you, guys.
Thank you for being here.
Thank
so
you.
Good to have you and see you.
Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.
Thank you. See ya.
Roxana, you go.
Yeah, I had a question related with what Todd mentioned about the awareness and having a website and social media. And my confusion comes from what all the internet says is you maybe are offering a lot of services, like Joanna mentioned, for example, packaging and web design and graphic design and book design and whatever. How do you handle a good communication without sounding like you are jack of all trades and master of none? Because it's like, maybe you are really good at all of those, but how do you communicate that in an effective way so you don't sound like you are a generalist and you don't know anything almost? Maybe it's
expertise validation. Todd, what are your thoughts on that?
Demonstrate it. Like, not just that you're throwing a service offering up there, right? And hoping somebody's gonna bite, but I mean, they will believe that you are a master of all of them if you can demonstrate it through your portfolio or case studies, right? I'm for very light case studies, you know, unless there's really valuable things in multiple ways in the case study. And if there is, you know, knock those out one by one, right? Don't feel like you need to, you know, deliver the case study, you know, in its whole final vision, right? If you have a client that you've done, you know, brand strategy for, identity work for, and then user experience work for, you can talk about all three of those at very high level. Hey, here's what the work included, and here's a happy client. And, you know, another way to show the happy client is to get a testimonial from the client. But the fact that you're just public about the work, and that I can click on something and look at it should be a deliver the right kind of message. So, and if you're not, if you don't have demonstrable deliverables, demonstrable work in a category, I'd be a little more shy about listing that as a service offering, or I'd figure out a way to do it to demonstrate expertise by way of sort of saying, here's how we look at, and this is a really effective way, here's how we look at, you know, if you were new to packaging, let's say, here's how we look at packaging, right? Or professional packaging, if you've done the training, you know, in design school, what have you, but you don't have things that you can point to yet on your own. The other thing that's in there that Jose and I talk about, you know, a lot is social media posts, Medium or LinkedIn posts that again are demonstrating, you know, hey, here's how we look at this. Here's a point of view on this. So, Jose, how do you think about it?
I would say and let me repin here because we started pinning, and now when you pin and repin, they should do a better job at that on the interface. Zoom, hi, if you're listening, better job. The issue of expertise validation is one where you demonstrate it in case study format, and you have to write them in a way that, like, I'm going to post on LinkedIn all the case studies that we've written because they're all written and they're on a Google Doc. Todd edited them, gave guidance onto what to say. Like, I'm always kind of shy of like saying like, well, what actually happened. And I had the tendency to underplay case studies. When I was doing it for my agency, actually, interestingly enough, somebody else put the case studies together. I mean, I gave the materials and put the images and all that kind of stuff. And then somebody went through and kind of like wrote them into our deck. And we had, you know, it was always a job to do that. The early business development was just networking inside our community and like, you know, expressing like, hey, what are the problems? One thing that was interesting, what are the problems that they had? One thing that was really interesting that really led to a lot of business development, two things actually. One was we were doing our strategic kind of like framework and our branding and or our brand and our business plan and showing it to advisors and having those advisors give us feedback. And in some of those presentations, it was our work and what we were working on. And the advisors themselves were like, you know what, I need help on a project. Can you guys help? And like paid us like, you know, fairly okay. And also because we needed it for cash flow in a timeline that was good for us. So doing the business planning and the strategy and showing that you are looking to master, you know, what it is that your business is. And part of that was positioning. In the writing, it was very clearly positioned what kind of we do. And it was broad enough positioning that it allowed for like, you know, multiple options. And it was authentic. Like we were you know, working with innovative companies, startups, and art organizations and nonprofits that, you know, so we ended up doing like the website for an art festival for USC, which actually looks really good even today, and was a real reasonable kind of like project fee. One thing which is super critical, and Roxana, this goes into how challenging it is to just do it on your own, is that I never did things by myself. I always had like one or two people that were helping, supporting, and like, you know, doing kind of like moving the work forward, as you see with Todd, as you've seen with Mary, Keone, et cetera. And like, there's always an exchange of both value and like camaraderie to build something that is helpful in how you do it. So it's coming up for me that in this case scenario, like even for our community, based on your story, like, you know, within the future, how to provide a kind of a group mastermind and accountability. So for myself, I'll give you one example. I need to create a lot of content, specifically TikTok and Instagram, and I'm really not great at self-motivating myself to that. So Todd has been scheduling it and pushing it and kind of trying to create a through line. I met with a user experience designer, or with a person actually who comes from recruiting designers, which is interesting, and placing them into large, you know, tech companies. But they're transitioning into UX now. And I said, look, just a very simple value exchange. You tell me what you need topic wise, and I'll create little videos for you. So, or I'll create little, you know, like, hey, almost like a mini course, like on TikTok, and you can, or on Instagram, on both, and you can watch them. And that in itself, even with clients, works fairly well. Like, I can't tell you how many times clients called after our newsletter was sent. All the business development for the system from last year, from the fall, from this time of year, was all from our newsletter sent out in August. And
hey, Jose, I just want you, before we get too far away from the comment you made earlier, that I just want to kind of, there's an aphorism that stuck for me for years around it, which is, Jose was talking about asking people for advice, basically seeking counsel from people, and how that can lead to work. The kind of like asking the right questions, kind of listening, and all that sort of thing. But in the venture capital world, when people are raising capital, there's this saying of like, ask for money, get advice, ask for advice, get money, right? And there's the same sort of notion in business development that can be at play as well, right? So you're not actually ever going to ask for, you know, hey, I need, you know, it's that begging kind of thing that you're worried about, which is understandable. But you can, you know, go to people that you've talked to, right, that has worked for in the past, and in the sense of the same kind of notion of like, what do you know about what do you see about what's going on in the market? What trends do you see? You know, what are the new priorities that you're seeing? You know, you're in the same kind of mode of like, I'm asking for advice, and as you get talking, and as you get asking kind of the right questions back to them, they're going to, you know, a lot of times see opportunities that they might not have seen before as the conversation continues. Hey, Nicholas, you've had your hand up for a while.
Go for it. Go, Nicholas. Yeah, please.
I just wanted to share something that I've seen in the context of designers and in the context of like generating awareness and proving you have the expertise. So there is this designer, I don't know if you guys have heard of him. He's called Jack Butcher. So he's the guy behind Visualize Value. So what he did 2 years ago was essentially And this is something that I could apply to the issue with having too many products and proving your expertise. So what he would do is to get like a, let's just say like a concept or quote that was like considerably complex. So just imagine a random philosophy quote, and he would use, let's say, just like a circle line and to simplify that concept and to easily explain it. So what he did was that he would do that every single day for months without seeing any result. But what he was doing every single day was proving that he had the brain capacity and design capacity to take something that was extremely complex and simplify it. And through that work, what he managed to do was eventually sell like pitch decks and just slides. Let's just say like 15 slides for like 20K, 30K. And that's just something that you could do, is just think about the ways in which you could prove your expertise. So for example, if you are a logo designer, something that many designers who I know would do would be to maybe break down why a company did X, Y, or Z change, why you think that is, or maybe why you think that it doesn't match the audience that they have. Like all those things could help. And that's something that I'm not a designer, but at least the ones in my network have all seen like great work from that. And they don't have the portfolios that all of you have. So if they could get work by proving their expertise on, let's say, fictional projects, but just by making them public, like I bet you guys can, that you have like so much expertise.
Thank you for that. Nicholas, I also just think you have so much, I mean, given that you work in content strategy, right?
Yes.
There's a lot of what we're talking about is effectively content strategy. It's like, oh, what things do I put on Instagram and how do I position them and how do I, and at what pace do I put them up, right? That's one of the things that Jose and I've spent a lot of time talking about recently is that cadence, right? Hey, what is it that I'm, there's a whole thing about like the value of figuring out like the value of what you're going to post. And to your point, the example that you gave, like, how do I simplify it into like, almost like a saying, an aphorism kind of thing. And the cadence at which I post that stuff. Because, the platforms treat you better when you're posting regularly. But the flip side of it is just the behavior of people who are on the platforms. They see that they're going to get fed your content more. When they see it coming up more often, they respond to it, it resonates with them. And eventually, like the example that you're giving, it begins paying off. But it's true, it's a kind of business development, it's a kind of marketing and communication, obviously. Jose, Ocean.
No, I was talking about like how I kind of, when I started the school, I wasn't consulting openly. I was just doing content, and it didn't make any money for like years, for a couple of years, until I started doing like school webinars and selling agency in a box. One of the first clients, big consulting clients, was actually one of the people in the first paid subscription program, the School Pro, who then hired me to go help him launch his startup, which we did. So I think as we wrap up, because we started 15 minutes late, so we'll finish in about 10 minutes and we'll do an upload. One thing I wanted to share, like there's a book called Sales Dogs, which allows you to, and I think I'm not sure who's the writer, but I can find it, which was twofold. Two of the most powerful books in sales that I've read that have totally like made my sales kind of mindset were Sales Dogs, which is what kind of salesperson are you? Are you a bulldog? Are you a poodle? Like, ooh, like that's the pharmaceutical salesperson, who's always super prim and, male or female, who uses that. And then the Chihuahua, who's a very technical salesperson. This is how you do it. And like, SQL database and like, boop, 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 boop. And then there's the Labrador, which is like the loyal servant who's always there, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Here, in some of the recent kind of new business kind of things, one of the things that always concerned me was that if the person was just too eager or too like, it threw my energy off. But if the person was like chill and like, I'm a Labrador Chihuahua, and I'm going somewhere with this dog story. And that means that I'm a very technical salesperson, because I know, yeah, brand strategy, and you got to do, oh yeah, you got to define your user, and you got to, like, I can get not right. I've never righteous though, because that really screws up your conversation with anybody you're talking to. Nobody wants to feel like an idiot or feel wrong. But the Labrador part is loyal. It's like, how you doing? I love your business. I love what you're doing. Like, this is so cool. Like, I'm excited. Like, I basically become their biggest fan. And inside that fandom, and look, and the business might have a lot of problems and a lot of challenges, and you can't take that energy from that person. And this is where being a Taurus helps. You have to stand strong in the belief that their business is great and it's going to do great, and that you can help, but you don't have to even voice it. You can help. I'm just feeding like the tools and the things that need to happen. And even during sales meetings, starting to solve their brand and like, you know, do that. And like, here you go, you're welcome, see you later. And I do that in all my conversations, relationships, and even like in a meeting at a conference with someone, like just from hello to like, wow, knowing where they're at and where they need to go, and then sharing a bit of my story and some of the solutions without solving the thing that people mansplaining, or like, you know, being the person solving the problem, other than like listening and saying, okay, I hear that. Oh, wow. Yeah. You know, I've had the same issue, you know, and here's how I solved it. That's not mansplaining. That's just sharing. Right. So the two things there is like, one, knowing what type of salesperson you are. And then the second thing, and I'm going to, this is the last thing I'm going to say, you know, you have to take action and build like the things. And Todd is a big advocate of just as narrow as possible, as simple as possible as a case study, and send it out. And, you know, kind of that is seeding your network to understand your value. Nicholas illustrated it really well. And you have to build buzz. So Ioana, I've been in Romania, and here's my observation of being in Romania. There were two cultures colliding. One was youth culture and tech culture, and, you know, fashion and all these things. I went to this coffee shop that was like in an incubator space, and there was like a fashion store, and I'm like, oh my God, there's all these cool things happening here. And then the other was like the older guard that kind of had this kind of Russian, like, you know, almost like, woe's me, the world is gray kind of thing. And that vibe was like in such conflict that I'm like, and I voiced it to my host, the people that I was there with, and they're like, yeah, totally. This is like the biggest issue we have like here, because a lot of people don't believe in what's happening with technology, and the vibes are like really, and the question then it's who do you have to be inside the realm of possibility? And if you look at what a lot of agencies and people do to get to the stable pipeline, to like, you know, the buzz around their practice, etc., it is 95% theater. And I've advised Scorpio CEOs who are like, fuck that, I want the reality and the real. And my only advice was like, the realest thing you have is that you have a lot of technical expertise. So you just kind of have to provide that to the leads and the momentum you have. And that will kind of like, and also I invited them be on panels, and I invited them to kind of express themselves, because they weren't willing to like get on the soapbox and share their experience as much. And then that kind of snowballed into like getting on more panels and becoming an expert in their category. So this itself as a platform, and I was showing the work you want to on here can be that, and that's my idea for content, which I'll follow up with a little bit. But at the end of the day, it has to be from the point of view of, I know it's American and I know it's fucked up, but it's like, we are awesome, we're doing awesome, and here's the shit we're doing, and you put it out and it's going, and like you elevate the vibes around everything you're doing. And it is, I would say, an exercise in being probably not who you actually might be. And if you need someone to do that, who can do that? Because the projection of possibility outward into reality, and let's use the word manifestation, which is woo, is an art form. and it has to be mastered. The minute that it's like, oh my God, we're out of work and the minute that energy goes into the other person, the person kind of goes like, oh, hold on. I don't want to be responsible for that, even if I have a project, because that's an anchor that's a little heavy for me. And people do not want to they have all their shit to deal with. So dealing with the responsibility of like someone else's thing, it's going to be an issue. It's always going to be like you're going to pull away a little bit.
So the only thing I'd add to that is, I don't think it's, I mean, is it sometimes fake? Are people fake in their marketing, and are they pushing stuff out there that is that's effectively vaporware? Yeah, they are, right? And is that cool? No, it's not, right? But the part of it that is any of us can do, right, is the part of marketing communications that's storytelling. And it's like, I'm excited to share this with you, this thing that we did, right? This way that we helped somebody else with their problem, right? Or how we address this problem that lots of people run into, right? And anytime, it's the nature of design, right? Anytime you are doing design, you are solving a problem of some kind, right? And built into that, this may be one of the things that is a really meaningful light bulb for us to kind of translate is storytelling. Because all storytelling is, hey, there's friction, and there's a situation that's causing that friction, and here's the path to how that thing got resolved, right? And naturally, when you think of it as storytelling, right, not fact sharing, right? It's one of these things that Jose and I work on a lot, with how to talk about what the system has done and what we've done is not just sharing the facts out there, but how you communicate it as a story, how you communicate it as like, hey, there was this problem that this client had, this is how we understood it, and these were the challenges, right? Because the resolution of a story, if it's just sort of like, here was the problem, here's what we did, there's not much story there, right? But here's the problem, here were the challenges in tackling that, and then here's what we did, right?
Yeah, and that's a designer, and also like I'm not picking on Eastern Bloc countries. You want to, and you guys are in the middle. You're not really, you're like in the middle of all of it. But the point is, like, I go in and I'm trying to describe in the case study, like, here's what we did exactly, and I was a little like, I wasn't. And Todd's like, no, motherfucker, pump up the value, pump up the value is huge.
Right.
Anyway,
identify the value, right? That's like surface the value. Like it does. You don't have to make stuff what it's not, but don't make it less than what it is, right?
You know, this little
absolutely,
thing, etc.
Absolutely, like recognize the value that what you did, brought.
It's true. And this is making me want to like be obnoxious and like really share, like, look, dude, this is how huge this was on some of the case studies and some of the projects that we have. Without it, I hide so much of what I've done and who I am from people out of like, oh, I'm not worthy, I'm like whatever, like, it's always in our head. And this was also a conversation at last week at Mighty Dream, the whole chip on the shoulder and like not being enough. But Nicholas, I love your question, and let's just tackle it really quickly. We still have a little tiny bit of time. It's when outbound pitching, do you send a case study, a text-based pitch? What do you do? Website link or capabilities deck? Wondering what worked best for you since. I'm going to ramp up outbound to get our clients for a new service. Todd, like we've been sending out the case studies.
Yeah, so when you're saying outbound, are you saying like a cold email, or are you saying like, oh, somebody understood you did something from another from a social media post, from word of mouth, whatever it is, and now they want to know more.
No, I was referring totally talking to a stranger. So when you were mentioning that I think it was when you were talking to Joanna, you were mentioning how you would go to these people and mention what you did and what could you maybe help with. So if you were to have that conversation, like, would it be text-based? Would you say your capabilities deck? Would you send case studies? Like, what's worked best for you?
So I want to put some context around it. You need to fill your funnel, right? Figure out ways to fill your funnel. And that may even come in the form of paid media, right? You figure out what's your positioning and how do we begin to fill that funnel? Because my experience with cold, right, is there a place for it in certain contexts? Like if you see somebody, like you do content strategy, right? So you happen to run into, you see somebody posting on LinkedIn and talking about their new thing, and you're like, oh, that's an interesting company, and I know a decent amount about that industry, and you shoot them a note and say, hey, I don't know what you're doing on the content strategy front, but I have a lot of background in X area. If you're interested in talking more, I'd love to be able to, have 10 minutes of your time to share what we do, right? But like plain old cold, right? I just think you could expire all of your effort on that, and it would not, lead anywhere valuable. Whereas paid media done the right way, I think, with the right kind of content, supported by the right kind of social content that is also on your account, where people like go, what's this about? And you go there and you're like, oh, got it. Like 3 little messages, I got that. Yeah, I'm interested. And you're getting people into that funnel. And then once they're in the funnel, how do you talk to them? I'd start that with what can I, understand more about what they're trying to learn, right? Because understanding your audience, always, super valuable. And then if capabilities, hey, here's who we are, here's where our capabilities are, is the right way to go. You have that on the shelf, digitally speaking, and you can share that with them. If there's a specific service offering of yours that's what they're interested in, let's get to that, right? And let's send them that. If you need something to, hey, I don't have a lot of time, but I'm interested in hearing a little bit more. You got a 2-3 minute video that is a sizzle of kind of what you do, and like gets them into the 15-minute, works their way down that funnel. You go with that. So the answer, maybe unsatisfyingly, is it depends, but it depends on who they are and what they need, and that you have, a collection of assets that you send depending on where they are in that process and what you understand about them and what their challenges are and how you can help them.
Thank you. Extremely helpful.
Beautiful. Let's do the upload. Like what are we, so I wanna do my upload real quick. One thing that I got out of today that is valuable is just knowing and understanding that it's a process, and very valuable to hear what you just said now, Todd. Like having I agency friends that I know, and here, I'll give you guys a really good example. Pastilla, a fellow, he's Panamanian. His agency, I gotta find the URL real quick. I think it's something Pastilla Agency, but they do ads. Like, so every time I go to their website, then it follows me everywhere. I'm like, man, like I have there's ads on like all the different, it's .co. What I really love about Pastilla, and they've been around for like 10 years. And Rudy, the founder, he did go to Art Center, and we went to high school together actually. And he partnered with a guy from not Romania, but from Czechoslovakia, who I introduced him to many years ago to do all the tech for them. And the Todd just fell off. Basically, the reason I'm showing it is because reach the right person with the right message at the right time. Oh wow, this is a brand new website. So it looks like they've really focused their website. Oh, this is not the homepage. Here we go. Here's the homepage. That was interesting. That came to a sales page when I did the Google, and that sales page was like all the benefits. It was like a one-page like lander. But okay, doing your own website, and on Monday I have a meeting to start working on my personal site, not on the Systm site, because we already put up a landing page, and then we're building a content, well, based on yesterday's discussion, Todd, maybe how we build the agency part of it.
Is it this page, Jose?
It's pastilla.co. Here, I'll put the link on here. But the
No,
reason why I wanted to,
you mentioned the one that looks like a one-pager with everything they offer. And
oh yeah, I think that might be it. But just even this part of like, you know, the thing, you have the work to do this. And Todd said it really well. So that's outdoor. This is mobile. They're digitally, but digitally, a lot. Okay, that SAP client started with like doing some dashboards that were, I remember that project because I was doing training at that time there. It wasn't a sexy project, but they did a really good job. And then they they kept on asking them. One other thing to notice is the brands are highlighted. Microsoft, you know, SAP, startups, whether it's corporate or a startup, outdoor, you know, digital, logo, animation, like, and this happens to be a really nice reel, actually. I'm getting like,
yeah, I mean, there is a very, very, very highly simplified version of this.
it could be just slides.
That's not a reel. It doesn't have to be slides. It can be images and
A carousel.
one long scroll, right?
Yeah, there's also like on Creative Market, whatever it is, in Vato, you can just buy a reel and
Exactly.
put your content in there. There's multiple ways you could do this. Yeah.
And there's another big part of like Rudy's strategy as a whole. Ooh, these are really nice. He's really involved in the community on boards of like nonprofits for arts. He's using the same playbook, not because I gave it to him, but because he's a, Panamanian, super, he's a Leo too. So he's like, yeah, go get it. And that in itself is like so powerful to be involved in the community. But if you're not in the US, or if you're, if you're out of side of the US, how do you do that becomes like a question. So anyway, my upload is make some fucking noise. And like, you got to do it. Otherwise it's not going to help out. So I'll go to, what's your upload from this, Roxana?
Well, for me, was a few things that are related. That is, do like a content strategy, surface the value. That one thought was amazing, and like Jose mentioned, bus container. You have to bus the hell out of the entire world. So yeah, pretty much that's it. Thank you guys, and I pick Hania.
Yes, thank you. I guess the last sentence that Jose said, you have to make more noise. It's important to you understand, make ask questions to clarify, in order that the persons directly show you the needs, and then you can offer your expertise. But make noise. In social media, it's important go to have a community and to not work alone. I guess this is also Jose say that he is have also worked in teams with persons, which is also very important to have another population. Okay, I will pick Diana.
Thank you, Hania. So I took so many notes, but also it confirms what I also knew, plus, you know, clarifications, and everyone has mentioned what I was already going to say. So the thing about volume also seems very important to me, because the more volume you have, the more of a chance you have to create interest around what you do. And then that cold is tougher, so you better start early and be consistent at coming in warm with people. Yeah, there's a lot of my mind is all over the place. But one thing that bothers me is that 95% theater, because I happen to not agree with it. I've done it. It's not me. It's not me. I know US tends to do it.
But
it's in
what's the
culture.
judgment that you have of the 90% theater? What is the judgment? Like, what do you?
No, it's not a judgment. It's a personal thing. I know I'm getting sick if I'm not being authentic. Like, I'm actually getting sick. I have been diagnosed with depression, and I can't do that anymore. No, I don't want to die. Or
You can. So my.
Go ahead, Todd.
Theater doesn't mean fake. Theater can mean fake.
Performing still feels like it's not me.
Think of it, instead of performance, think of the word as presentation.
That I understand.
Okay, so
it's the word theater that, you know.
Different.
Acting, acting, yeah.
Right, but I'll put it this way: excellent acting, right, is when an actor makes something feel authentic because they find that authenticity inside of them, right, and then they surface that up to you as an audience, right? So I appreciate 1,000%, right? The bullshitters, right? I'm 1,000% with you. It's not about bullshitting, right? And that bullshitting is unpleasant, and it is not my thing either. So I'm totally with you. But it's about surfacing up. Like, how do I surface up? How do I bring attention? How do I, theaters include spotlight, right? How do I shine a spotlight on this thing that is in a corner but is really highly valuable, and I want people to see it, right? I want my client or my prospective client to see it. So how do I shine that? How do I shine the spotlight on it? And then the other thing that I was talking about earlier is so much of this stuff is about storytelling. And again, that doesn't mean bullshitting. It can for some people. That's how some people do it, right? And but it doesn't feel good to me either, right? So it's some of it's more work, but some of it is practice. As you develop the practice of it, it'll become easier and easier for you to say, I get it. I need to, this thing that I surfaced up before, they've got a problem, right? You have an idea of what the path to a solution is. You also understand that there's, along with that path to that solution, are zigzags and are challenges and conflicts that are going to come along the way. I am describing a story arc, right? If it was a dramatic story arc for a movie, it would be the same thing. So being able to understand it, practice it again and again, of like, it's just the communication skill that you can develop. And I firmly believe that you can develop with practice, because I know I have, right? That the light bulbs went off. Oh, conflict. Stories all about conflict. And when people first said that to me in the writing and filmmaking world, I was like, huh? Like it didn't write. And then like over time, you're like, oh Jesus, like you realize like, oh, the conflict of this story is this person wants this thing, and this is the thing keeping them from getting it, right? That's a story about business, right? It can be a story about anything, but it's ultimately every story, those are the fundamentals in it.
Yeah,
Hania.
I hear you. Yeah, and one more thing that I wanted to say was even when I got in the future and I told you about that story, what was painful was that the future was preaching empathy and listening and being of value and showing up to help people. So when I did that, yeah, so it wasn't an attack on the future, but it was a, messed up experience.
You didn't feel safe, yeah, and
yeah,
creating
at
safe
all, yeah.
Creating safe containers is important, and I mean, maybe it is a thing, that has to be created somehow into we've done it to some degree in our community, but it hasn't been perfect. Messy.
I'm sorry you experienced that. I think the flaw there was not a moderator, watching what's going on and saying, hey, wait a second, right? Like, hey, stop begging person. Like, I don't know what's going on with you, but that's not how we talk to people in the community, right? So figure out a positive way to say that, or don't say it. So, and the nature of social media comment, boards and comment sections and all that kind of thing, people have a real tendency to go negative real fast.
Yeah,
So,
and it's Jose, you put a finger on cultural stuff, so it's true. Like we carried the weight of communism, also the American dream, because like I think you heard this a lot. Like almost everyone in the Eastern Bloc wants to kind of become or pursue the American dream, but at the same time, precisely because there's war, there's conflict, there's Europe is an old country, we can spot BS a mile away. Like we have like very good radars. So that's why it's not really in our culture to be,
And
context about theater and fake it till you make it.
Yeah, the reason why I told that story is because the mechanics of business development and the mechanics of like all of this are like predominantly capitalist American kind of mechanics, and the question of how to do it authentically is still a question. I struggle with that question.
Right.
I have that kind of like conflict in myself, like of like how to do some of these things in a way that yet nonetheless, what I am saying, if we're willing to listen, is that the only kind of suspension of disbelief and playing the character of that might have to be something that happens in order for this to work and move forward. Because as long as that blockage is there energetically and otherwise, it is difficult to create the buzz container, which I love that, Roxana or Hania, like kind of like, it is very difficult to create it. And it's not about authenticity, and it's about the real story, like what Todd was saying. Theater is not about like, the acting and being fake. It's about the actor saying the truth even though it might be written, even though it might have a spotlight, even though you might have a costume, the performance is you. You are the performance of who you want to step into. This is all a performance and a ritual. Everything from the haircut to the glasses to how many burns I've done to the colors that I wear. It's all a performance, you know, and it's not a performance of inauthenticity, it's a performance to become. I'll tell you the last story that when, you know, we were doing content together, you know, one of the things that I wanted to be was authentic and just say whatever and use curse words. And, you know, and I was met with the necessity of a very strong director guiding the script, the narrative, and who I was as a character, which I felt some offense to because I'm not a character and you know who I'm talking about. But the lesson I got from that was super powerful because as a creator, as an empath, as somebody who's really sensitive, I had to play the character and then retreat to my own private space as me and then come back with the character. What I wanted to do, and it's been part of the journey since I left, was that it wasn't about playing the character. It was about becoming the character and the attributes, you know, the spiritual part, the, you know, the captain part, all the things. It was about becoming that character with all the other things being there in the background, you know, whether it be ADHD, whether it be depression, all those things, they never go away. They're trauma based, and Gabor Mate talks a lot about that. But getting up to say hello in the character of me as authentically as possible, or authentically completely, but knowing that the narrative in the script is like, imagine if Core drove your life inside a contextual narrative of value, you become the character that you set out to design of yourself that isn't in the context that you came from, whether it be Romania, whether it be Spain, whether it be Germany, whether it be whatever it is. Look, we live in a media environment, and you know we have to kind of mitigate or mediate through the fact that we're on screen and we're talking. And I've been on screen since 2012. Who the fuck am I? Am I like the first person that's got on YouTube many years ago that was a crazy man? Or, well, still that person. Or, you know, who is it that you become? All my whole point about authenticity is this. You can become authentically the things that you need to do to make, you know, the buzz container occur. And not because, you know, there's, you know, even outside of your natural being, even outside of your astrology, all those things are just containers. It's becoming powerful enough to transcend the container that really matters. And that takes time and steps and doing it 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 again. And there's some basic fundamental actions that need to be taken, like what Todd said, like what's the real of the things, where's the work, like, you know, seeing all of it helps a lot. So, all right, we got to wrap up. Who's left to upload? Todd, I think, and Hania, you want to go, and then Todd, are you last?
Yeah, I think so. Has anybody not gone besides me?
I think everybody's gone.
Nicolas,
Yeah, I haven't.
Nicholas, go ahead.
Sorry, you go ahead.
No, I just want to say, just based on the entire conversation and what I've heard so far, I think the biggest lesson is to do what you know you must do. Like sometimes we know we have to create that buzz, we have to go do that outreach, go talk to that person. We know all of those things and we don't do it. I think, at least in my case, one big lesson is to one thing that I know I must do that I'm not doing right now is to be patient. 4 years ago, I started my entire work journey. I remember using like all my savings to pay for the yearly hosting subscription to the website I had back then. Now I've had like the best year I've had in my life, can't afford what I want. But since I started focusing on a new journey like a month and a half ago, trying to create a new process, of course, not getting the revenue that I want to have. But man, like I already have experience. I already have a portfolio. I know that you get through these things and you still get stressed, and you just got to trust the process. Be patient. If you've done it before, if you know what you're capable of, just be patient. Results will come.
Thank you, Nicholas. That I guess leaves me. I will I'm glad all that so much resonated with everybody. That with not this. We didn't have a topic exactly planned, but worked out very well. So thank you for all of that. The reminder for me is I guess consistency and cadence. That all the things that we talked about, like make noise. Make noise is great, but like keep making noise. Like that it's we're doing it on a regular basis, and that it's authentic, that you understand your value and that you're surfacing that value. All that stuff are good reminders, for me, that I'm taking away from today's conversation. So thanks everybody.
Thank you everybody for being here. This was a good conversation. It's 1:11 on the West Coast. Holy poo. Wow.
2 hours.
Wow. Yeah, we did it. And I'm gonna put up this last slide of much love. We skipped music and cookies. That was the music and cookies right there. Ioana, thank you. I hope this was valuable and helpful. That was beautifully said, Nicholas, at the end. It's all coming, being patient. We're in the portal jump, keeping I have a hard time, Ioana, kind of keeping cool, and I get super nervous and emotional, and then but that's my Scorpio moon, so I just gotta let the Taurus embellish me, and I just stand still is the key.
I don't think it's bad manifesting all the kinds of feelings you have.
No. What I'm saying is I'm having the feelings.
Oh yeah, okay.
I'm feeling them, I'm processing them, but I'm just still trusting the process, trusting God, the universe, whatever you want to call it. And that is a long time kind of thing that comes from my upbringing, which, it's beautiful. You trust the process, which is what Nicholas said, that it's all coming and that it's there already. It's just waiting. So thank you guys, everybody. We love you. Hania, it's good to see you. Follow up on the conversation we're having. We'll talk to you guys soon.
Thank you, guys.
Done.
Oh, it was very nice.